welcome everybody to the Sparks of Light webinar. Today we're discussing about a very important topic, that is the real dangers of Kabbalah. And I said before that people ask me, but isn't Kabbalah dangerous? You know, can it mess up my head? And the truth is, everything can be dangerous if you're not careful with it. So Kabbalah is we have to first really understand what the wisdom of Kabbalah is, and then we can understand more readily why is it what can happen if you're not careful. So essentially, Kabbalah is the divine wisdom that has been passed throughout the generations since Adam Arishon. We know that all our sages and prophets, they had Kabbalah wisdom, which was a way of understanding reality, and through that we can open our minds to see the world through a very different and more expanded lenses to understand the workings of God. And that is very important because, you know, we can see, once we study the wisdom of Kabbalah, we can see a bit better how the world works from a more comprehensive perspective, let's put it like that. We also become less materialistic, and we start getting closer to Hashem, because everything is essentially an expression of God, right? And so this is also, by the way, a very comprehensive, very important tikkun that every man needs to do. Women, by the way, they already finished their tikkun a long time ago. That's what the Arizal says, Rav Yitzchak Luria. And basically, it's up to the men to finish our task now, hopefully, with God's grace. Yeah, basically it's something that we need to start working on. But everybody can essentially understand the principles of reality. That's the whole point of Kabbalah empowerment. Now, ideally, of course, we would all find a mentor. I once found a mentor when I started studying yeshiva about 7 years ago, and this mentor was a really good way to me because he helped me understand what Kabbalah was, or not how to approach it, and many of the questions that I had, I was able to get it solved, and it was very convenient because I'm Brazilian, and he just happened to be Brazilian also there in the yeshiva of Bnei Brak, the academy that we studied. So ideally, you should find a mentor, because there are many questions that can come on once you start working through this process of studying Kabbalah for real, okay? And also, we need to, as a part of this process, we need to follow and keep halacha, the Jewish law, to the fullest, because essentially what we're doing with halacha is stimulating, making eliciting a response in the upper worlds. Kabbalah, we're studying the response that we generate, but halacha, we're actually causing this response to happen there, and then of course to bring more blessings and everything. But essentially, I tell people all the time that Kabbalah and halacha are just two sides of the same coin, okay? It's just, there's no one without the other. There is sometimes they just the different ways of eliciting such a response. There are some differences with Ashkenazim, Sfaradim, and Hasidim, and everything, but ultimately, nothing escapes this rule that we're actually, you know, trying to please God, that we should to fulfill His will, and that we should be blessed as a result of that, and life should be sweet. That's what we want. Now, also another part of this process is to purify oneself, to become holy for man. It's to try to go to the mikvah as much as possible, to try to be pure, to avoid the gazing at immodest sights. But women also as well, you know, that's part of coming closer, because our consciousness oscillates between the physical reality and the spiritual worlds. That's a very important thing to keep in mind. All the Kabbalists, they were, you know, very careful with their words, with how much they'll eat, and to be very careful with their eyes, and to pray hard, and to do all these things to separate from the physical reality as much as they could. Of course, there's a balance to strive for. We can't just, you know, completely separate, because otherwise we die. But there is the need that the mind should be pure to accept this knowledge, this wisdom, because this is also another very important distinction between Kabbalah and all the other parts of the Torah, which is that Kabbalah does not depend on how smart you are. It's just as the root of the word says, Kabbalah comes from the word mekabel, which is to receive, meaning you are receiving from above. Basically, in order to receive from above, you have to have the necessary kli, the vessel, which is your mind, in order to be able to perceive this wisdom. As opposed to if you want to study halacha, the Jewish law, the Talmud, you don't need to go to the mikveh every day. You can actually, if you're a very smart person, you can understand the exchanges between the sages. You can actually come down to the depth of the halacha, lemase, the law that needs to be done, what needs to be done in each case. You don't need to know everything. So that's the main, if I could put, as I like to put it, the main difference between Kabbalah and all the rest of the Torah is that Kabbalah is based on the Chokhmah, the wisdom, the Sphira of Chokhmah, which is a process of seeing, as opposed to all the other wisdom, which is also, again, part of the same coin of the Torah, which is the Sphira of Binah, because we can actually understand the ideas on their own. Kabbalah, actually, we need to be patient. There is a very important aspect that a person needs to persevere. There will be plenty of questions. There will be plenty of times when you just want an answer, but you can't have an answer yet, and you need to go around everything in order to try to understand what is it talking about. Okay, I use this metaphor all the time. That when you are studying other parts of the Torah, it's like you can understand them on their own, and it's like when you sorry, this is just I got a bit confused, but when you are studying again a part of other parts of the Talmud, you can understand each sugya, each subject on its own. Whereas Kabbalah, you need to have a comprehensive view of everything in order to start understanding a little bit. Okay, and this is, by the way, the difference between when you describe a car and you see a car. When you see a car, you know the car, you can paint it as you like. Just the car is right there in front of you, and you can already apprehend it instantly. But when you are somebody is describing for you the car, it's impossible that you're going to paint a car the same way as he's seeing that. And so when you are seeing it, it's a higher level of just hearing the things. But in order to understand what you're seeing, then you need to actually start learning by hearing with the words. Okay, so far so good. Anyway, I have now divided the pitfalls of studying Kabbalah into basically 3 groups, just an arbitrary division that I made. Okay, so the first one is the ideological or mental pitfalls that I call, which is low risk. And then there are the physical pitfalls, which is medium risk. And then there are the spiritual pitfalls, which are high risk. Okay, so just a little division I made just make things easier. But anyway, as I mentioned before, when a person studies Kabbalah, and we're now talking about the first one, the ideological and mental pitfalls, which are low risk. So when a person studies Kabbalah, he begins to see things another way. He has plenty of ideas, the sfirot, the words and everything, the angels, and so you see all the things is a very big light. And so a person might actually think that he's the chosen, that he starts behaving arrogantly towards others that he knows. When in reality, if you think about it, wisdom should be very humbling. Knowledge is a paradox, actually, because the more you know, the more a person knows, the more he understands the vastness of his own ignorance. It's a paradox. So he should, by actually studying it, it should bring you to a place of more humility. It should bring you to actually, respect others and to understand, wow, this is amazing. You have to have this awe of reality, or awe for another person also, because this is also another chidush of Kabbalah for people who have studied it, which is very important to understand that there's no reason to be jealous of anyone, because each and every one of us, God created for each and every one of us a full system of all the spiritual worlds, all the spiritual systems, all the sfirot for each and every one of us. And this is an insane thing to contemplate. Just that, should actually feel a person with awe and to gratitude, because it's really, really amazing. But anyway, that's one of the first pitfalls. The second one of this ideological mental pitfalls that we're speaking about is neglecting other areas of the Torah, like the Talmud. So there's no way around it. Okay, the Arizal teaches us that the Jewish law and also the Mikra, the scriptures, is has the source on the spiritual world of Asiyah, the lower one. And then you have the Mishnah above it, which is the word of Yetzirah, and then you have the Gemara, which is the word of Beriah, and then you have Atzilut, which is the word of Kabbalah, the highest one. So, but these are all from Atzilut. There's a whole thing there. But anyway, they are all part of the same system. A person, in order to receive and achieve his tikkun, he has to have all the four parts, all the pardes. And so many people, I unfortunately heard that they're just, okay, I'm just studying Hasidut, I'm just studying Kabbalah now, and I don't need anything else. And this is a very, very big mistake, which we'll see soon because this is the starting point of all the other mistakes, that a person neglects the other areas of the Torah and starts to think a lot of crazy things. You need to be grounded in halacha, the Jewish law. You need to be grounded in the Talmud. You need to realize, we all need, not just you guys, me also, everybody needs, we all need to have this humility to realize that we don't know anything. It's Hashem, it's God, He's infinite, and no matter how high we go, then there's still infinite to go left over. But and this is also another point that people sometimes mistake, especially in Rabbi Nachman's teachings. They make a mistake that Rabbi Nachman tells us to be a tam, to be a simpleton. That's the general translation, but that's not very accurate, because people tend to think that, okay, well, so I don't know anything. Nobody knows anything. Nobody knows nothing to know. But Rabbi Nachman also teaches in another place that a person, in order to be a good servant, he needs to be a lamdan, know a lot, to be studious, to understand things, to really get to the point of the ideas that are being conveyed in the books. We need to study a lot, basically. And so I'll talk a little bit about a little explanation how to consolidate things, that no matter how high you go, realize that there are infinite levels above, and still be happy with what you are acquired. You can still be happy and enjoy, and to understand that there is a way to understand things. There is a way God made the wisdom, so that we are able to perceive Him, that we are able to actually make sense of what is going on. Anyway, other people can also, this is all from examples that I saw, unfortunately, but some people also dispute halacha, the Jewish law, or Kabbalah with chidushim, the novelties that they think about that do not conform to either. Like I once heard a guy say that, why we said on Tisha B'Av? Tisha B'Av, where halacha tells us to be said, but we are not, Mashiach is going to be revealed or be born on Tisha B'Av, and so, we should not be said. But no, the halacha says we need to be said. We need to really live in this world. We can't just live to another world, and we have to fulfill our avodah here to the best of our ability. And this is, by the way, also the deeper meaning behind the famous story of the 4 sages that entered the Pardes, that entered paradise, which include also Elisha ben Avuya, who went crazy and became an apostate. And people tend to think that, that's such a silly mistake. I would never do something like that. But, it just happens. But thank God the guy, somebody corrected him that, you should actually be said on Tisha B'Av. You should understand that, also Rav Maran Yosef Karo, all the halachic authorities, all the poskim, they were huge Kabbalists themselves. They knew Kabbalah left and right, inside out. They knew everything. Okay, there's no the Chazon Ish, the Chovetz Chaim, whoever, Rav Moshe Listerlis, whoever you can say, they knew Kabbalah. They understood what was being said. They considered all the sides, and they didn't make any mistakes, no problem. It's just a different ways of looking at the same thing. Anyway, but there's another pitfall that is not particular to Kabbalah, which is overstressing the mind. When you get excited to things, we want to continue, want to learn. When we learn something new, something great, an idea that changes us, we want to more of it. We want more and more and more. And sometimes people, this can happen also, by the way, again, in other areas of Torah and all their sciences anyway, for that matter. Like people start studying and they forget a little bit about to take a break, to be balanced. That's what what my mentor there in the Shiva said. Just don't think you are the Chazon Ish. Don't think you are gonna study 16 hours and be fine. Okay, just start slowly. Don't go overdo it. Basically, that's it. Now, that was the first group of ideological and mental pitfalls. The second group, which are the physical pitfalls, which are medium risk, there is, as a consequence of what you just said, that there is extreme asceticism. As we saw before, okay, a person does need to be somewhat separated from the physical world. We do need to, take more care to go to the mikvah as much as we can for men. We need to, say the blessings as well as you can, to be calm, to be, not to go crazy with food, sleep, and everything. Just there's an idea of also sleeping less, but we should be careful with that. It has to come from within, okay? And so since again the mind is always oscillating between the worlds, the mental world, the spiritual worlds, and the physical reality, we need to be very careful not to just abandon everything and just go around and thinking that without looking where we're going, because that can be dangerous. But anyway, another thing which I have to tell you guys is the obsession over small things. And this happened to a friend of mine, by the way, because Kabbalah has a certain set of customs that are just a bit different sometimes, and obviously they have deep meaning. For example, my friend, he asked his wife to buy wine for him once for Shabbat, and she bought white wine, and he was not very happy with that, because Kabbalah teaches you should have red wine, because red is symbolic of Binah, and the bread, the challah, is the chokhmah that we're eating. So you have to be red, and red wine, the bread should be white. Yeah, it's a balance, okay? And needless to say, he had the challenges of Shalom Bait. That was not very pleasant for him, because, and that's not worth it. He was completely wrong, yes, of course. You should always prioritize Shalom Bait over every Kabbalistic consideration. You should always, again, keep your feet on the floor. Don't think you are above your level. Don't think you are, okay, so we do now Kiddush with white wine. That's perfectly fine. You can do also with vodka. You can also do with the bread itself, Kiddush. It's an halacha. But yeah, it's not a perfect scenario, but you shouldn't waste your Shalom Bait, the peace in your home, for that type of thing, okay? Now, there's another, I guess, very important problem that can arise when people start studying Kabbalah, which is some distorted ideas that might lead him into having impure thoughts. So Kabbalah speaks about the Partzufim, which are spiritual configurations or spiritual systems that we need to rectify, and speaks about Zivug, which is coupling. Coupling meaning, everybody knows what coupling is, but we always have to have in mind that, for the love of Hashem, that these are all spiritual concepts. They don't have any bearing with the physical reality. Of course, there's some similarities here and there, but we should never ever think that these are physical concepts in the way we understand them here, okay? And this, by the way, is present in every book of Kabbalah. Almost every book of Kabbalah, you open, you have the introduction, that you should not take these concepts literally in a physical sense. You should be very, very careful, because there is no physicality in the upper worlds, especially when you're talking about God. And so, people might have these ideas and just think that, I'm becoming the personification of God. I know, things can go very, very crazy. And there is a separation. We need to understand that while on a theoretical sense, yes, there is everything is in Sof, the infinite one that is permeating our reality all around us and everything. There is a very clear separation between God and creation. There is no escaping that. And that is the game we're playing here, the playing field that we are, working on, that has this separation. Okay, we can't just think that, yeah, everything is God, because then otherwise you'd, start dismissing halacha, the Jewish law. You start dismissing that, well, why not just have non-kosher meat? Why not? It's all God and everything. So that's a very big risk that people can can come to. Okay. And now, finally, we're going to the spiritual pitfalls, which is the high risk session. Okay. And that's the exciting part, right? And when a person starts, the first one is that when a person starts to study and meditate, and he does not take care to be pure, then he can open himself to negative influences in the spiritual wars, by the way. And there are techniques, by the way, in Kabbalah also, that people go out of their bodies. That's a thing, there are many traditions that call it astral travel, body of light, all these types of things. And this is present in Kabbalah, yes. The problem is that when a person leaves his body, he is in the spiritual world of Asiyah. This is the lower spiritual world that we are in. And Rav Chaim Apsan teaches us in its Chaim that, and in Shari Kedusha also, that the world of Asiyah is, as the lowest one, is almost entirely dominated by evil. Now, evil is not necessarily to kill somebody, okay? Evil can be lie, can be ignorance, can be just, the creatures that people often meet in this regard. They might just deceive people. They might just, tell them things that are not true, or they just might give, little advice that you can find on the internet, like, take your jacket before you leave home because it's cold. So just we have to be very careful, okay? And if anyone here has such an experience, either through that or through psychedelics, I would very much recommend that you be careful. You ask questions. You don't need to take anything at face value. You don't need to accept what is being said if any creature comes to you. And Rav Chaim Apsan teaches us that the way to test if an angel or whatever spiritual creature is, if he is true or not, is that if it has a basis on Torah. If it has a basis on Torah, then okay, he's good. Doesn't mean that he's super wise, and doesn't mean that he's also super elevated, but at least that what he's saying is true. Okay, and again, this is also an advice for people to always be grounded on halacha, not to think that you can just take things out. You'd be surprised. Most people would be surprised to know what people can start thinking when they receive advice from whatever creatures that they find. Just be together for other people, and it's a mess. Okay, so always be grounded in halacha. Okay, there's another very important, very also risky idea, which is writing kameot, which are amulets. Kameot, they are written with the holy names of God, and people, that is says that if you just write a kameot yourself, you already have to do a tikkun. You have to do a tikkun because it's by itself an avera. It's a sin to write. You can write in certain extreme conditions. You need to be wise. You need to be a tzaddik. You need to know what's being said, done there in the kameot. You need to be fasting. You need to be doing Leshem Shamaim for the sake of the Jewish community or the world, or for the sake of the Torah or Hashem. You need to be very, very, very careful. And I don't even think about writing kameot at all, but there are many books out there that teach you how to make kameot, amulets, and for all sorts of things, to become rich, to have wisdom, to never think about sinning, to become to heal, for healing, everything you can hint of. Trust me, can even make somebody fall in love with you. Okay, But again, there is an inherent problem in that, because that is you're actually mamash for real utilizing God's names there for certain purposes. You better make sure that it's a very good purpose for that. And tied to that is also the pronunciation of holy names. Okay, besides when we're except when we're studying or when we're praying, it's forbidden, absolutely forbidden, to speak about holy names. But there are also holy names, names of angels that people. I have a book here, by the way, that teaches how to do these things. But I never pronounce anything. The Rizal says that you can pronounce the name Gabriel, Raphael, the name. These angels are okay. But every other angel, you should also be very careful not to pronounce his name, because the angels are very jealous, and when we pronounce his name, we're actually calling to us. Okay, so he might actually not be very happy that we are using his name like that. Angels are sometimes not so kind as you like to think, and they might actually, cause problems to a person. All right. Now, there is also a practice in Kabbalah of adjuring demons and angels with holy names. I think there is some case in the Talmud and in the Zohar where the sages, they actually made the angels swear that he put a holy name of Hashem on the angel or the demon to make him do his bidding, and that is very dangerous. Okay. And finally, we have the last danger, which I can think of, which is doing new rituals that contradict halacha. Based on everything that we said here, a person might actually come to, have an encounter with a demon that might pose as an angel, and might just ask, why don't you make an incense for me, and I'll bless you. That is avodah zarah. That is very bad, and that is idol worshiping. And to get rid of that attachment is very tricky and very difficult. You have to do tikkunim, tshuva, maybe Yom Kippur, maybe not even that, because once a person does that, then he can be, he can live a very nice life and everything goes his way, but there are problems afterwards when he passes away from this world, and it's very difficult to get rid of that. And so again, when you know all these things, I don't mean to scare anyone. I just mean to teach, how to approach Kabbalah properly. I just mean for people to, have a good relationship with God, because, that's what we're here for, and to inspire as well. We have to do our effort in order to grow, to expand our minds, to maybe even have these spiritual experiences, which I very much believe in. We need to have all these things, but we need to have an approach with care, and not to do something that might endanger us or might actually be wrong, because otherwise it's not worth it. And that concludes our webinar. We have still a few more minutes here. If anyone wants to have a question, you are welcome to ask me. It doesn't need to be about this specifically, but I'll be happy to answer to the best of my abilities. Okay? Thank you for joining.